Okay, hello and welcome everybody to another 21 Futures podcast. I am joined today by Decent Money, or as we will call him, DM. How are we doing, DM?
Hey, good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome, and congratulations on your story. What a tremendous story, Temet Nosce. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
You know what? I actually don't know. I should look that up, how to properly pronounce the Latin. I think that's correct.
Well,
You know,
funnily enough, I studied Greek and Roman at uni, which included Latin. So I think it's Temet Nosce. Yeah,
okay.
the
Well, that's
C
good
the
to know.
C is the C's are hard, right? So they sound
Okay.
like K's in Latin. If I'm wrong, I'm sure someone can crucify me in a comment, but I'm pretty sure I'm
I'll,
right.
I'll trust your judgment. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. So sometimes in the 21 Futures community, we talk a little bit about crypto, specifically about Bitcoin. You are a Bitcoiner, right? Congratulations on
Yeah.
reaching over 100K.
Yes. Yep. I'm always looking at the price, so it was good to see that we're back.
Yes.
Um, it's funny, isn't it? Like to me, I just see it as noise, though. It's like, yeah, we're past 100K, but like to me, it's going so much higher. So this is all just noise. This price action at the moment.
Yeah, I understand that. It's a milestone. It's because there's a psychological threshold around it. It seems like the support
Yeah.
at 90K is it's insane, you know. And
Mm.
I don't know about you, but a lot of my sort of normie friends are asking a lot more questions than they used to.
Yeah.
Right? There's
Yeah.
definitely
It
an
is.
interest.
It's definitely, yeah. It's an important threshold that gets it, in the media and into people's consciousness.
Yeah, and there's kind of this movement, isn't there, that we should talk about a little bit, that we're calling the cypherpunks, a bit of cypherpunkery. Is that something you're involved with or watching?
So I guess would I describe myself as a cypherpunk? I feel like I need to write more code to get that label.
Yeah.
But I do think the privacy is important, and it's certainly something that is touched on in my story.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's 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 really great to see that Bitcoin has kind of, I don't know, I guess you could call it it's a bit of a renaissance for that movement.
Hmm.
I've read a really good book from, what's his name, Aaron Van Werdum, I think. He wrote the Genesis book, which kind of goes into the history of it, and they talk how it was kind of dying off a little bit, and then it's kind of come back because Bitcoin kind of was the fire
Yeah,
under it that relaunched it. So yeah, I think it's really important.
absolutely. And it would become more so, right? As we when I was sort of talking to people about the 21 Futures correction, one of the things I said almost by accident is, we're going to write about the sort of financial dystopia we're all soon to enjoy.
Mm.
And people thought that was quite funny because, I mean, is it true? Are we heading towards a world where we're promised sort of safety and comfort at the complete loss of individual sort of liberty and freedom, and
Yeah.
does Bitcoin protects us from that, in your opinion?
Uh, yeah, yes. Like, I'm obviously a Bitcoin maxi, and I do think that Bitcoin holds a lot of promise, but I don't think it can fix everything. Like, I think it will be useful and it will provide a bit of an escape valve, as people
Hmm.
call it, from that kind of more oppressive system. But whether it like fully saves us, I mean, I hope so. I hope it never needs to save us, to be honest. I hope that it's kind of a bit of a check on that system to say, like, if you misbehave too much, we've got this other parallel system that we can just exit to if we need
Hmm.
to. So,
Hmm.
you know, keep things in line a bit. Um, if
Yeah,
they don't, there's a lot of people who will just never make that escape to Bitcoin. They just
yeah.
won't. You're not going to make that leap, and then they're kind of stuck, I guess, in that other system of control.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, and I think you do see some serious maxis that are like it will solve every problem that exists ever. So I think your more grounded approach is good. I do think that certainly from 2019 and 2020 when a particular thing happened, the idea of sort of parallel societies suddenly became much more interesting to a lot of people, including me.
Mm,
Right. And it's
mm,
like, can we opt out of fiat and central bank control? That is that possible? Or do you always have to have some interface with that world? And you actually end up with a sort of your real life and then your on-chain life. And that I think is kind of one of the themes of the new collection, is
mm.
are we going to exist in societies or even worlds or planets or universes where this sort of financial dystopia is affecting everyone? And this is sci-fi, this is fantasy, but there are some real world elements as well. I mean, your story is it's very easy to imagine our world, right? Your story happening in our world.
I mean, yeah. I mean, when I wrote it, I was kind of thinking of real life examples. I mean, obviously, mine goes to the extreme in some of the themes. But like when I was writing it, I was thinking about these real world scenarios where, yeah, people kind of lost their lives in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really frightening. And I wonder, had you heard at all about so I'm from the UK, and we've had like this big sort of unbanking scandal where a bit like the Canadian truckers in the COVID lockdowns,
Mm.
people have found their bank accounts closed for their political views. Were you aware of that kind of stuff when you were writing the story?
Uh, no, I haven't heard about deep banking in the UK. I've heard a lot about sort of, like this monitoring of social media posts and like getting arrested
Oh
for,
yeah, oh yeah,
for a meme or something like that. But no,
yes,
I wasn't aware that there was deep banking also occurring. But yeah, for me,
oh yeah.
that trucker movement was a bit of an eye opener around,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we had a politician called Nigel Farage who he went on a TV show called I'm a Celebrity, which kind of whitewashed his reputation, made him really famous. And then one of the biggest banks in the UK just deleted his account or like shut down his account. And the person that
God,
did it, the person that made that decision, just received a knighthood. So apparently it's a good thing when you shut down the bank accounts of your political opponents. And you're
yeah,
right. There's this real shoot the messenger culture here now, where um, rather than sorting a problem, we remove people pointing out the problem. So anyone who
yeah,
draws attention to a problem is the enemy. The problem
mm,
itself is fine.
yeah,
so so let's escape the real world into writing. We talked a little bit before we started recording about writing and how it's nice to kind of take a break from the real world and do some writing. um yeah, so you were in the previous collection, right? Tales from the Time Chain. You're in this new
yep,
one. Let's hope, maybe I can't confirm or deny that there'll be future ones. Hopefully you'll be involved in them. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with 21 Futures, a bit of your sort of writing background, and maybe uh, if you have any sort of advice or inspiration for other writers to think about? We'd love to hear it. No pressure.
yeah, sure. So my initial start with 21 Futures was, yeah, just a post on Twitter or X as it's now called, from the 21 Futures account, or maybe it was the Consensus account, because I don't think the 21 Futures account existed back then. So
Yeah,
that
I think that's right.
yeah, with Consensus Publishing, and I've always sort of daydreamed about stories. I've always kind of got these stories going on in my head, and I'll make notes on my phone, but they're things that are just kind of for me, and I don't write anything to completion or publish anything. But when I saw that, I'd already been daydreaming about sort of sci-fi ideas around Bitcoin. So I was like, oh, I could probably, come up with something that might be worth submitting. And yeah, I just kind of jumped into it, full hog. The initial story that I wrote for that, Hello World, it was starting to become a novel instead of a short story. I had to really cut it right back. But it just sort of showed me, once I got it to completion and submitted it and it got accepted, it was like, oh, I can do this. Like, I can actually write something that people like and that they connect with, and it's, that was encouraging. And so when the second one came out, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna give it another go. Didn't have a story in mind yet, but once I saw what the theme was for the second collection on financial fallout, I just started brainstorming things, juggling ideas around and seeing what stuck. Do you want me to go into that process a bit, how I came about the story? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because not only did you respond to the brief and really hit the nail on the head, you're one of our finalists, aren't you? It's one of the top choices from the editors, myself, Phil, and Nico from Konsensus Network. We had a wonderful conversation about your story and how good it is. So we'd love to get
thank you.
some of the background thinking around your story.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm really appreciative of becoming a finalist. That was really, really great to see. So the story, it started out, like most stories, it starts out very differently when I first started brainstorming it. Do we care about spoilers for this? Can I just talk about it?
Well, you have to bear in mind, people watching this might not have read it yet.
Okay.
But that's okay,
I
think.
I guess I'll just put that warning out there now, that spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, turn this off now, kind of thing. So it originally started with this idea of an AI assistant, actually, where it, have you seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson in it? He has an AI.
She's an android or something, isn't she?
No, she's like an AI that's in the cloud, but sort of interfaced through his phone, and it starts as his assistant and then becomes his girlfriend, and
Okay.
But my idea was a bit different, in where this AI assistant is kind of acting on your behalf, and then it kind of becomes like this proxy for you in the digital space, and it starts making decisions on your behalf. It's trying to be really helpful and do all this stuff, but it's this really advanced AI, and it just kind of takes on this life of its own, to the point where the human wants to step in and be like, oh, actually, I don't really want to do that. And I was like, too bad. I've decided
for your convenience.
I've decided this is the best course of action, and you can't override it. So sorry, for this removal of agency in the digital space. But I was just brainstorming about it, and I had this idea of that was kind of like identity theft. Now this AI is you, and your identity in the digital space is not you anymore. It's something else. And so I just wanted to sort of, I took it that next step of okay, what if it's your identity is, it's who you are, it's your body in that. So I made it set it in this fictional universe where, your body literally gets taken away from you, and it's replaced with this, almost like a blank template, which I'm calling in the story a nobody. And I just thought that was a really interesting idea that I could explore in terms of, you mentioned it before we started the recording, that it's like this body horror of being trapped in this shell that kind of encases you, and what that would feel like, and what it would do to you.
And did you intend for it to be scary?
Yeah, once I decided to
once
I decided to go that route of the more it's literally taking your physical body away from you and replacing it with something else, I was like, I'm going to really lean into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said that body horror, I was like, excellent. That's exactly what I was going for.
Yes. Yes. I think you've achieved it. This is a story, and we're very lucky to have a couple of stories in the collection that really kind of stay with you after you've read them. I'm very excited for readers to get to read it for the first time, so that they'll know the feeling I'm talking about. But yours, you can't help but put yourself in the protagonist's shoes and think,
Mm.
God, if that happened to me, what would I do? Where would I go? And that's a point in the story as well, right? Whilst we're doing spoilers, is where do you go? What are your options? But yeah, I mean, tremendous. And I think that if we talk a little bit about, you mentioned there sort of almost accidentally moving into like novels and things. Do you see a future where you're writing in this universe from your story, or is it a standalone, do you think?
No, yeah, it's funny you picked up on that. Yeah, no, when I sort of built that world where this kind of thing could occur, I was thinking of a broader kind of universe in which another story that I'm working on would sit within, where it's kind of, like, might be going into too much detail, but usually when you have like a virtual world, it's kind of like this separate world from the real world. You've got the real world and the virtual world, and you can kind of move between them. I'm trying to build this idea around, kind of like what our current world is, where we've got our real world, and yes, you've got this parallel digital world, but it's kind of infecting our world. Like they're one and the same. Like the
Yeah.
digital world exists in the real world, and I'm just taking that next step of really making the digital world simply a part of the real world. And so things that would only be possible in the digital world actually can happen in the physical world.
Okay. I'm thinking like a kind of reverse matrix there,
Yeah, yeah,
where
exactly.
that's very
Instead of
cool.
separate worlds, they're one thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, like, yeah, like if you have your identity stolen, you lose your body. But you could also use encryption tools to protect yourself, and you become like this, this sort of silhouette, and people can't see you fully. You're kind of invisible because you're protecting
Yeah.
yourself with
Yeah.
encryption or something like that.
Well, it's interesting. One of the themes in your story, I think, or at least from my point of view, is the character asking for help, right? Going to, like, in the panic at the beginning, being like,
Mm,
"Hey, that guy knows me. Like help. I need
yeah,
help," kind of thing. And that sort of having something to turn to. uh that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because what would you do in real life? What would you turn to? Is it Bitcoin? Is it the cypherpunks? Is it some rebellious faction that can save everybody? Or are we on our own? And that's a big question I always see in sort of alternative finance media, is, are we on our own, totally accountable only for ourselves? Or you know is help out there somewhere, and we're just not sure what it is yet? What do you think?
yeah. I mean, I think the answer is in front of us. Is that it's out there in the open. Like we're having these sorts of discussions just between us now and
Hmm.
publishing it, and the information is out there for anyone to listen to and to absorb, to understand these ideas that we're talking about. And why are we doing this? Like it's it's I mean it's nice to have won the prize, but that's not the reason I wrote the story.
Sure,
I wrote the
sure.
story because I wanted people to sort of make a connection with these ideas and to understand why these cypherpunk ideals are important, and that privacy is important, and that a money that's separated from the state is important.
Yeah.
And that I hope that helps people. So, I think people do want to help others in whatever way they can. It's just that there's also the other side, that you've got to seek that out. You've got to ask for help or look for help, and find it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's a very good opportunity to talk about the 21 Futures Telegram group that we have. I've noticed, and you've probably noticed as well, more people joining, more people asking questions, sharing ideas, and what they're working on. It looks like Konsensus Network might have kicked off a bit of a sort of Bitcoin and crypto fiction storytelling revolution, which is very cool to be part of. But you're right. Everything is community, and it would be sad if that became only digital. So it's nice that we can have a community of real people having real conversations around this stuff. So I would encourage everyone listening to this to seek out our Telegram group and join us there. Maybe we can put a link in the video description somewhere. But yeah,
Sure.
I think you're right, and certainly one of the reasons I do it is because for ages I did everything on my own. I got into Bitcoin and sort of I like looking at my first email from Coinbase, right, in 2016.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just something I look at sometimes, and I'm like, wow. But
I've done the same thing.
yeah. But now
emails from empty Gox. Ugh.
Oh wow, you were one of those guys. Did you get
Yeah.
done? Did you get wrecked?
Yeah, I got wrecked.
Oh, you got wrecked. Okay. Well, you're going to get it back
Yeah.
at some point, right? That's the
I
theory.
got some back. Yeah, that's already
Yeah.
happened.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you
Not
got
all
some
of it,
back.
but they
Yeah.
got some back, which was
Okay.
nice. But
Better than nothing.
still a bit painful.
I got wrecked in the lunar crash. And I
No.
was at a wedding, so it was rude to whip my phone out and save my crypto. So it went to zero, and funnily enough, ended up naming our puppy Luna after Terra Luna. Everyone thinks it's after Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter. It's not. But my point was going to be, I've spent the past year or two sort of onboarding friends into crypto, and they're so grateful because not least because we've made them some cash, right? But also just understanding that fiat is essentially a broken promise. Because of how inflation works, you have less money every day if you stack fiat. If you're a fiat maxi, you have less every day, and if you invest in assets that you actually own, you might end up with more every day. So I liked helping others sort of get to grips with it, but also as a writer myself, people started saying, hey, can you write about crypto? It's probably 2020, 2021. People started coming through like, hey, we need a website, we need a white paper, we need this, we need that. Can you write it all? And I just say, yeah, because I love it. It's my favorite thing. So now to be part of a community of not just like Bitcoin guys, but people that write as well, it's like a dream come true for me. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Awesome.
I'm very grateful for that. So we're connected through the 21 Futures Telegram group, but you are active on Twitter, yes? I believe it's at Decent Money 2009. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So people can find you there. They can also pick up 21 Futures Tales from the Time Chain to read your first story, Hello World, and with 21 Futures Financial Fallout coming, I can't wait for everyone to read Temet Nosce. That's amazing. And in terms of what's next from you, DM, when do you think we might hear more about your next works? You don't have to tell us if it's a secret.
I mean, if you're referring to the full novel, who knows? Like, it's really hard to find time to write that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've recently had a real sort of burst of motivation. So I've been writing more consistently. I've written more in the last 3 days than I have in the last 3 months. So that's been
great.
Encouraging, but it's who knows?
Yeah, well done.
It may never get done, but
have you heard of
ready?
NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, sound? I've definitely heard of it. I've never kind of
Yeah,
looked into it.
I've done it 4 times. You write a novel in a month, and
Oh
it's
God.
brutal. It's absolutely brutal. It works out at nearly 1,700 words a day. Um, and I found the only way to do it is to sleep less. you, you just sacrifice sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you did mention that you responded to the submission with your ideas and your writing process were quite quick. So it is possible to kind of
It it is,
produce.
especially when it's a short story. I mean, that would be one of my advice to people who want to get into writing or have always wanted to get into writing is pick up short story competitions
Yep.
or call outs, because getting that sort of small, easily kind of achievable goal makes a huge difference.
Yep.
That's part of why the full novel writing is quite difficult, because I know it's such a long, hard slog, like a marathon in a way, that
Yes.
it's kind of like, oh God, do I have to, drag myself in front of the laptop to write this really long, drawn out thing? Whereas with a short story, I can very quickly piece things together and see the full picture.
Hmm.
And that's motivating. That's really,
Yeah,
it's a strong
absolutely
motivator.
right. I encourage every writer to think about also, poetry, lyrics, write everything. I've been lucky enough to write a wedding ceremony in my life once. Like we
Oh
write
wow.
everything. There's
Yeah.
nothing I wouldn't have a go at writing, including
Yeah.
country music album that may or may not ever see the light of day. um,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
starting with short stories is a great idea. And with novels, I mean, one of our writers, DJ Bodden, who will also be on the podcast, he's done a bunch of novels, and
Okay.
his advice would be similar to my advice, which is, you know, finish and move on, or quickly
Yeah.
leave behind your first projects. Because what I found with writers, I've had probably about 150 writing students through coaching, and it can be very difficult to stop going back constantly to the first project,
Mm.
right? And
Yep.
so my advice is always finish and then just move on. So I mean, I've
Yeah.
done
No.
6 novels, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, five novels and a non-fiction book and a million short stories. And now when it comes to writing a creative thing, the goal isn't to be perfect, it's to finish,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It's to get
No.
it done.
I I think that's really good advice, because I can see in myself that I fall kind of in love with my idea and I want it to be perfect, but then that becomes a problem, like
Yes.
where
Yeah.
it just doesn't progress, because I'm too down in the weeds trying to get the words just right, and it doesn't get anywhere. Like
Hmm.
progress slows to a crawl. I get demotivated and then I just drop it.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
again with the short story, it's just this really quick kind of boom, 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 and you get that dopamine hit. You're like, I did it, kind of thing,
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
and you're not so precious about it, and so yeah, you can write it and then move on.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned looking at a novel as a bit of a slog, a bit of a long slog. But
Yeah,
if we get this right, and we look at individual chapters as almost being like short stories, and
yeah,
if we look at the James Pattersons and Stephen Kings, who have this brilliant sort of everything starts with a strong opening and a cliffhanger, um, you can end up really excited about getting back to your novel, and that's the best
yes,
feeling in the world. That's the feeling I
yep,
try to give students, is they're going, I can't wait to get home from work to start writing, and I'm like, so many people don't feel like that. That's the
mm,
ultimate feeling. And
mm,
my wife will tell you, I mean, I think a lot of writers have rituals when they finish a book. Like there's a Hank Moody in Californication, who's based on Charles Bukowski. He listens to music and smokes a joint. What I do is I just cry. I just weep like a little girl, um, until it's all
the,
out,
ca- the
right?
the cathartic outlet.
Yes, yes, it's a tremendous cry. It's the best. It's one of the best cries you can have. I think that I finished a novel cry, uh, but that's just me. And who knows? Maybe in the future we'll be having this conversation about what your ritual is. But I think
Yeah.
for now, we've been talking for a little while. I'm very grateful to you for you and your time, DM. Uh, would you like to share any parting thoughts or comments with anyone before we wrap up?
Oh, geez. On the spot, no. Geez. Can't
I know it's
can't
so
really
mean to ask that,
think
isn't
of
it?
anything.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fine. That's totally fine. So what we'll do is we'll say thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you pick up a copy of 21 Futures Tales for Financial Fallout and Tales from the Time Chain via the Consensus Network shop or Amazon or anything like that. And there's also the newsletter. The Consensus Network has a great newsletter, but you can connect with myself and with DM in the Telegram group where we'll be in there talking about Bitcoin writing and the financial dystopia we're all soon to enjoy. So with that, we'll say thank you very much and see you soon.
cheers. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, my friend. Take care for now.